What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, what's been coming out from the company itself, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So SoFi is wanting to break out, so it's briefly green right now. A lot of volatility, so 775 the low, 798 is the high. And right now, 5.6 million shares have been traded, 44.3 is the average. At the time doing this video, there has been no news, no SEC filings, nothing like that. Yesterday, there was a couple of things I'm going to touch on. So I'm going to go over some of the data points first before I go over some of the recent updates, like I said, as of yesterday. So starting off with options, market's been open about an hour. There's currently $1.18 million in calls being purchased versus 288 in puts. So based on this, there's a lot of optimism, especially based on the Q&A that was said yesterday. People see and now acknowledge and hear from Chris and Anthony that a lot of big things are in SoFi's future. But moving on, looking at some of the specifics for the call options that are being purchased today, it is anticipated for it to be above $8 by the end of this week. So that's kind of positive. So this shows all the strike prices, expiry dates, everything that you need to know for that. And looking at puts, it is anticipated for it to be sub 750. So that's actually moved up based on the last couple of days, obviously as a result of the Q&A yesterday. A lot of big money has been buying SoFi today, even though the market's been just open. So far 1.33 million. So yeah, a lot of good, exciting things. As of late though, there has been no recent analyst ratings. So I feel like either later today, if not throughout the week, there's going to be a lot more analysts jumping on SoFi, giving a little bit more positive ratings, like I said, as a result of what came out yesterday. But I'll give you an overview of what shorts are doing. And as I've said, I'm not saying SoFi is a short squeeze play, just it's good to have this as a benchmark. So right now, shorts are returning 409,000 shares, 15.04% of the free float's being shorted, 134.59 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average has gone up slightly, so 1.14%, but still very, very low. And through Interactive Brokers, short availability does indicate that there's more than 10 million shares available to be shorted. So when it comes down to it, obviously how you interpret this, by shorts returning on a kind of a neutral, if not green day, shows that they feel like it's justified and that there's more upside coming. So once again, that's definitely a fairly positive thing. But what has been really driving the broader market over the last couple of days has just been a lot of fear, and a lot of fear on how, I guess, the rally that happened the tail end of last week was unjustified. So a lot of people were anticipating that the Feds are going to be cutting interest rates sooner rather than later, but a lot of institutions such as Goldman Sachs has been coming out saying that that might not necessarily be the case. Even right here, looks like SoFi's Liz Young did say that things are kind of toppy, as what she kind of says in here. So near the tail end of the video, I'll kind of play this just to once again show just the mentality of the broader market right now. So I feel like if the market was going to be green yesterday, or would have been green yesterday, SoFi, especially based on what they said, would have went up like crazy. It did briefly break that $8 mark, and I can tell that the technicals do want to go and retrace back there. So I'll kind of go over some of the technicals before I go over what happened yesterday. So $7.92, it is currently between this P and this R1. So 739 is going to be that next strong support, which hasn't even been tested the last couple days, so that's a very good thing. But $8.18 is going to be that next strong resistance, which it was broken temporarily yesterday. So I think, like I said, it does want to break out. It just needs the broader market to kind of be in line and okay with that, if that kind of makes sense. Number of retail investors are getting out today. Stochastic, you can kind of see it at 82. So technically is considered overbought somewhat. So I think that's also what's aiding in it kind of pulling down slightly, but you do see a nice bullish sentiment. So black line above the red. So of course, that's a fairly positive thing. There's a couple of things that did come out yesterday. So there was a comprehensive analysis growth prospects for SoFi posted by bestgrowthstocks.com. And ultimately on that analysis, it goes over, I guess, the summary, just whatever else. But the key growth areas that I just wanted to share with you: lending driven by personal loans and student loans refinancing, financial services driven by SoFi Money, direct deposits, and debit card spending, and investing fueled by rising assets under management. So let me know your thoughts on those three key growth areas, or if there's anything else potentially. So what's your viewpoint on that? And yesterday, like I mentioned, was that Q&A that was the next big thing for SoFi, at least catalyst wise. And a lot of the answers that both Anthony and Chris did state, like, were expected, such as profitability. So they are anticipating that this quarter onwards, SoFi is going to be profitable. They go over offering dividends. So Chris just basically said, so it's certainly something that we'll consider as it becomes relevant to us. And obviously, I think that was more of a kind of expected answer. They're still on track for Technisys. One thing that I really did like that they answered was right here about them trying to prevent, or I guess what they're doing to mitigate a recession. So how is SoFi equipped to survive the possible upcoming recession? And this is something I actually do really focus a lot on in my videos, is fraud prevention and ultimately what they are doing to mitigate risk. So Chris did answer this perfectly, and I think exactly what I've been stating, that fraud is very expensive on, for instance, SoFi or whoever else. So ultimately, you have to do everything possible to mitigate that. So there's a lot of control measures in place, especially by SoFi being a fintech and having to physically sign up for an account online. There's a lot of ways that really put SoFi in a very good position to kind of detect things early on. And plus, there's a lot of other things through Technisys and whatever, Galileo, that technically help with fraud prevention and whatever else. So let me know your thoughts. I know I'm skimming through this, but this was, I think, about a 50-minute or around an hour long, if I remember correctly. I was kind of in and out. I was going to live stream that, but unfortunately didn't. I kind of caught on to it too late. But once again, what of these questions stood out to you? I know, like I said, I'm skimming through it, but what stood out to you? Such as even this, where do you see the company in 2025? This one I really liked as well. So where do you see fintech in the next 5 years, and how will SoFi contribute to the developing technology? And one thing that I really liked is that they acknowledge that they're not going to be buying any other companies. They're just going to be expanding on the current arms that they do have, such as through Expedia and whatever else. So I think a lot of big things might be coming SoFi's way just in the foreseeable future. You just have to be patient, as I've said time and time again. So let me know your thoughts. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with SoFi? And do you believe a lot of the recent analysts that potentially the market's going to be trending down and that there won't be any rate cuts, if anything, until the end of the quarter? So what's your viewpoint on all that? And like I mentioned, I'm just going to play this, a couple of minutes of this, just so you can kind of hear Liz Young and what she does say. So once again, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that.
Since October 26th. And now you have another big name seller of mega cap tech, Mark Zuckerberg, filing to sell $185 million of Meta shares in November. That is the first time in a couple of years. This follows Bezos, remember, selling millions of Amazon shares November 15th and the 16th. That was $240 million. NVIDIA insiders selling or filing to sell. That according to Bloomberg. So is tech too toppy?
Well, maybe they have big purchases to make. I mean, we don't really know what the motivation is. They want to take some gains. I've thought that tech was toppy all year. So I think the answer to that for me right now is yes, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that the market has been strong and that this rally has been almost unrelenting. So we're at a time where I think you don't necessarily fight it. It probably exhausts itself. I don't know that today is the beginning of that exhaustion, but as rates have come down, it's given a lot of steam to this rally. It's given a lot of...
It is to note that this came out yesterday, so this, alongside Goldman Sachs and many other institutions, were starting to be a lot more bearish on the broader market, whereas on Friday, there was a ton of optimism.
Steam to growth stocks, and that may continue as we sit in this I don't know period between, are we going to have more contraction in the economy? Are we going to see a time when rate cuts come closer into view? They continue to come closer into view, but are rate cuts going to actually cause a problem, which honestly is usually the case.
Why should you own Meta and Amazon? It is notable that Zuckerberg's selling for the first time in 2 years. The Bezos number, which was reported, was $240 million, though Faber reported at the time that it could end up being a lot more than that. It just raises the issue with the NVIDIA thing, too, because NVIDIA is up 209% year to date. Meta's up 162. Now, Amazon's up 71. So those are the three best performing of the mega cap names year to date. And it just makes us wonder whether these stocks have gotten too toppy. whether they're too rich. Their valuations are dramatically ahead of not only the equal weight S&P, but the S&P 500 itself. How would you address that?
Well, you do have to sit up and take notice when they sell it. And then you go and look, and I went and I looked at Zuckerberg's holdings today. It's a pimple. It's really nothing. He's got so much more.
So yeah, I'll save you some time. The rest is kind of nothing in reality. So I just wanted to kind of touch on what Liz recently said. And I really do like what Liz kind of states. I follow her on Twitter. And if you haven't already, go do the same. But with all that said, I appreciate all of you watching. And let's all make a ton of money on SoFi.